Call to order the Town Council Work Session, Tuesday, May 27, 2024 at 4 p.m. And next on the agenda would be approval of the agenda. So if I will need a motion.
So move.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? Right here, none. This will be a roll call vote, and we'll start with Councilman Hand.
Aye.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Unanimous. So next on the agenda, before we do the agenda, I'm going to, just for council's purpose, our next meeting starts at 6. We need about 15 minutes for them to get their equipment to go over to the next meeting, so we'll kind of keep up with that a little bit. All right, so discussion regarding the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-26. I believe that would be Mr. Moore, maybe?
It could be. I think you got in your packet the proposed budget, which included the cover sheet, which gives you a general synopsis of the budget relative to capital improvements at the top of the page, which were $4,538,000, and then salary increases, which we discussed at the last work session, which totaled $156,874. We do have some more recent information relative to insurance costs, things like that, which will change these numbers slightly between now and the next reading, because we did get an increase on our workers' compensation insurance of about $42,000. Our total package of insurance, but workers' compensation is the part that increased at $42,218 from over last year. So we do have some changes there. And then in the two following packets that I hope you have seen, you have your revenues and expenditures. It looks as if our projected revenues would be about $30,480,000. Our expenditures would be $36,400,000. We would use the general obligation bond for water and sewer to do some of the work at the water and wastewater plants for $2,354,222, and then we would propose an increase in the water and sewer rate that would give you $1,564,658, or in that range. We did change that user program to include only those people over 15,000 gallons of usage. So that change has been made. Does kind of extend the expense on up to the higher users from there. So that's a synopsis. I'll be glad to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Can you repeat what you just said?
I'll be glad to provide you with the information.
And if I could just add one thing, as part of the budget discussion, I asked Mr. Moore if we could briefly talk about the Monroe North project. For those of you who weren't on council back in 2022, we came to council about a resolution to support the application for a CDBG grant to help Open Door build 32 apartment units over there on Monroe North, which is sort of next to Food City. And we went through that process. As you all recall, we also gave them the housing rehabilitation zone incentive so that we could waive their fees. So we were contacted by DHCD. We were awarded that grant. We had a meeting with them on Friday, and we found out on Friday that we do need to show the $1.9 million and some change in our budget for this current fiscal year we're getting ready to move into. That will be shown as an expenditure line item and a revenue line item for the exact same dollar amount, because that grant is 100% reimbursable. So I know that number, when you see that at the third reading, it's going to look like, wow, what happened? But we do have to show that for the grant guidelines, and they asked that we would do that. So we did invite Jordan from Open Door to come to this meeting tonight. He is running a little bit late. So if you want, we can circle back when he gets here. But we did want to give you an update on that since we just found out about it on Friday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's an exciting thing, but there's a lot of work that's going to be coming our way as far as getting documents and that, right?
Right, correct. And just to stall for a little bit of time while we're waiting on Jordan. So if you remember from that project, they stacked quite a bit of capital. The CDBG grant was about 1.9 million of that, and that money, it will be used for the civil work that is required to get the site ready for the apartments. So that's your stormwater, putting in the access road and the parking lot, the grading, the utilities, those sorts of things. They did get a congressionally directed spending allocation from the previous year from Congress for another chunk of money. And then they also matched that with the affordable and special needs housing funds, also through DHCD, for another chunk of the money to do the construction of the housing. And then lastly, they're applying to Virginia Housing for a bond for the remaining capital that they need to build the apartments. And so the good news is that the town's portion, which is the civil work, will be the first part. And then at that point in time, our grant requirements would be met while we are waiting them to finish the housing component. And then after the housing component is complete, that is when we would actually finalize the grant. They do want to see the housing units on the property before they finalize the grant. So it may end up being a 3 or 4 year project, from the time. I don't know, but I anticipate it's going to take several years.
What type of housing will this be again? I just need a little bit more. They came and had a discussion on this on the 22nd of January of 2020, I think 2024. And so looking back at some of the minutes and different things from the meeting, I just need a little bit of a refresher of what type of apartments those were supposed to be initially.
Sure. And Jordan he'll be able to answer that too in a little more detail, but I can take a stab at what I know. Due to the funding source from DHCD for both the CDBG funds and the Affordable Special Needs funds, they will be required to document the value of the apartments when they rent them. They also have to submit to that organization their marketing plan, their management plan, and they will have to do quite a bit of reporting to verify that those apartments are for workforce housing. So in essence, it's individuals that'll meet like a certain percentage of the AMI. I don't recall if that's 60 or 80%, but I want to say that in the meeting on Friday, and Mayor Taylor was there, I want to say that some of the apartments would be in the $600, $700 range.
They had three different
levels.
Three different levels.
Correct.
And
Again, when Jordan gets here, we can ask him that question for you.
Right.
As
I know
well.
that there were three different levels that were previously discussed,
Right.
700, 900, and 1100. Excuse me, but as I went through the rest of the packet for the meeting, those changed drastically, the amounts did. Looking at the paperwork that I have, I could be wrong, maybe something has changed since then, but the amounts that were listed were $1,008, $1,080, and $1,498.
I think you might be referencing the housing rehabilitation zone designation.
Okay.
So essentially, those numbers that you just quoted, the second batch of numbers, that is the town program. So those are our threshold guidelines for being in the housing rehabilitation zone.
Okay.
Those are not what Open Door proposed. So Open Door will be much less than what is in our town program to be a participant in the housing rehab zone.
And they are workforce apartments, correct? For
From
the
what I
people that are in the
understand,
workforce.
yes.
Okay.
Low to middle income and workforce housing is how it's been described.
Can you, I'm sorry.
Low to middle income and workforce housing is how it's sort of
Okay.
being described.
Okay. And I believe there were supposed to be set-asides for domestic abuse survivors and disabled people. also.
Correct, yeah.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And when we met with DHCD on Friday, that was in the contract language.
Okay.
And so I feel confident that DHCD will assist the town with holding the developer responsible for meeting those thresholds that they applied for when they applied for that grant.
Okay.
About that. I was just checking up on our lost lamb. She won't be here.
Oh, no, what?
On our lost lamb, your partner.
Are there any more questions about the budget in general that's not related to Monroe Street project? Okay.
To revisit it,
I'm sorry.
you want to move on to your agenda, you can revisit it. There's nothing wrong with
True.
doing that if you want to. It's up to you.
Okay. Do you know what time he thought he was going to get here?
About 4:15.
Okay. Well, why don't we get started on the review of the economic development incentives package? And then we can break that up if we need to.
Okay, certainly. Do you want me to take this one?
Please do.
Okay. All right. So tonight we also have Todd Wolford from downtown Wytheville who's with us. Thank you, Todd. The purpose for bringing this item to you tonight is, as you all know, the Town of Wytheville Economic Development Incentive Packet was initiated in 2014, and it has been successful at attracting businesses in downtown Wytheville for about 10 years. Due to concerns related to the town budget, the town council briefly paused the incentive packet during the COVID pandemic, and I looked at the minutes and it shows that that was on April 23rd of 2020. Due to the rebound in town revenues and the popularity of the program, the town council reinstated the economic development incentive packet on November the 8th, 2021. And they reinstated that with the original guidelines that we still have today. So in 2023, I formed a subcommittee, and we were meeting to see if we could find any low-hanging fruit to potentially add to the incentive packet. And we met on several occasions, and essentially there was different opinions in the room. We couldn't really reach a consensus on any changes. And so the incentive packet has stayed the same. We haven't brought that back before town councils. It's really been the same since that time. And each year, the town council has also appropriated the funds for the budget for the program. So when you look in your budget, you've got 4 line items that you use to fund your economic development incentive program. These are all under the town council section. So you have the Downtown Wytheville Facade Improvement Program. You have the Enterprise Zone Local Incentives, which is what you use to rebate the meals and lodging tax. You have the tourism zone incentives, and from what I understand, nobody has really used the tourism zone incentive that you have in the packet. And then you also have the line item for the sign improvement project. So if you need to look in your budgets, those are where those are housed. So at tonight's meeting, the reason why we have this on your agenda is the town staff would like to get the town council's consensus to continue the economic development incentive program in its current format. And if you look in your packet that Ms. Corbin sent to you, you should have seen it in there, and we can pull it up if you want to look at it together. Throughout, when you first open the program, it doesn't have a deadline date for all the programs, but when you sort of dial down into the different programs, a few of them do have sort of a sunset clause of January 1, 2024. And so that is the reason why we wanted to bring this before you, because we just wanted to get assurance from town council that you do want to continue the incentive packet. And if you do, one suggestion would be that we would remove that sunset clause and potentially put some language in there that says that the incentive packet can be renewed, modified, removed, or altered at the discretion of the town council, subject to budget allocations and decisions by town council. And so in this way, we don't have to constantly worry about bringing it back. It would be, if you did want to change, then we would just initiate the conversation at that time. And so that's one thing that I would love to see tonight, if you would be willing to do that. The other thing we may want to consider as an option, and Mr. Moore and I and Mr. Wolford had a conversation about that a couple weeks ago, would be to potentially agree to let downtown Wytheville be sort of the, the town representatives for that program. And why that would be important is I think it would be great to have one person or entity who would do the marketing, who would do the meeting with folks that are interested in the incentives, to sort of freshen up our application process, but also have the ability to modify the marketing materials when needed to meet targeted audiences. Currently, we have the Economic Development Incentive Packet located on the town's website. It is at wytheville.org/economic-development. But I do think it would be worthwhile for us to consider a little bit more marketing of the program, just to make sure that everybody is aware of it. The other benefit of having the centralized location of downtown Wytheville administering the program is that they can coordinate with the treasurer's office on the disbursements of the rebates and things of that nature. But most importantly for me, I think the ability to capture the metrics over time, year by year metrics on, who participated, what was the benefit, was it a factor in a business coming to downtown Wytheville or staying in downtown Wytheville. We have some anecdotal sort of stories that lend us to believe that that has been the case, but I think it would be really great to sort of formalize the metrics collection as it relates to this program. So with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions, as is Mr. Moore, Mr. Wolford, if you have any, and if you're in agreement, we would love to continue the program. Thank you.
So I guess it's sort of a question. Over years going past, even before COVID, and COVID, we just had to kind of sit tight. But it seemed like that there was one or two that might have come to council for different reasons. Todd, do you remember anything like that? Yeah, well, for incentives for their, businesses or whatever. But just seems like that maybe we're not the same as what was on paper, and they wanted to deviate just a little bit, and so they had to come to council or something like that. And I don't know if there's I don't know if there's anything on that puts that. Todd, I'm sorry, will you come up, because we.
The only thing I remember from the facade improvement, some folks were wanting to deviate from rendering and recommend. We started administering in 2000. On the facade improvement, folks were wanting.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of somewhat loose. Started implementing vibrant, follow the ring completely, and kind of an all. That's what you're referring to.
It probably was, but I just wanted to make sure going forward that that's in place so that we don't have people wanting to deviate.
Yes.
Thank you.
The other thing you should be aware of is, since it's a 5-year, most of these are 5-year programs, is, from 2024 to now, they will continue on to get rebates in their meals tax and lodging tax for the next 4 years. So it's an ongoing program for those that started before the end date.
It seems like it's been a very successful program, Todd. I would certainly trust your opinion on that, whether you feel like it's been successful. I think it has. But I would like to see us continue it, unless there's something else that I don't know about.
Hey,
Help me out with that.
We've had several businesses living downtown. It's been a game changer, the things that we've been able to improve. Even so, moving forward, there's you might say that are on the hook based on the bill.
Thank you.
Elaine, do you need council to take a vote to let Downtown Wytheville to be the moderator of this program? Or-
So on your agenda, it says renewal of economic development incentive packets. So that's originally what was put on the agenda. If you were so inclined to add the part about downtown Wytheville, I think that would help to have that reflected in the minutes. But if you want to consider that at another time, that is fine as well, whatever your preference is.
All right. So council, do you want to vote on what's on the agenda, or do you want to go ahead and,
I would like to
Incorporated.
add that Downtown Wytheville take responsibility for the applications and process incentive package or the incentive program. Please.
so is that a
Yes.
motion?
Yes, and also that we continue the incentive package until council decides otherwise. So,
That's good. All right, so we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Right here, none. This will be a roll call vote. Vice Mayor Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Patterson, excuse me, Patterson, aye.
Joseph Hand, aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you for taking that on, Mr. Wolfen.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Todd.
You're welcome.
All right, well, I think I don't think there's anything else under that one agenda, so we do have him here now. If you would like to come up to the podium and just state your name and your entity for the minutes, please, and help council to understand what's going to unveil.
Gotcha. All right. My name is Jordan Stidham. I'm with Open Door Community here in Wytheville. So the topic we're sort of talking about as pertaining to us is the CDBG grant, the Community Development Block Grant, and its relationship to the development project we're working on called Monroe North. So Monroe North is 32 units. It's an apartment structure broken into 3 buildings, 2 smaller L-shaped garden units for ADA compliant, and then a larger 2-story structure up top. So one thing that's a little bit different about this development is that we've put a lot more time and money into the architectural phase of it and designing the property. A lot of the bigger developments you'll see in areas are usually kind of just one building box style because it's more cost effective to do it that way, you know, just almost like a big barrack. And so one of the things when we first started working with Hill Studio was that we wanted to make sure that we were improving the neighborhood we were building it in. And so they put a lot of time into designing everything from down to what kind of roofing material are we using, the layouts of the buildings, working around leaving mature trees, the nitty gritty. And so with that comes a higher cost to actual build and develop. And so we approached the town through the PDC for the Community Development Block Grant for some of the site development work that'll lead up to it. So the property itself is 810 West Monroe, and that's used to be Umberger House, the little white single-family home with the field around it. And so if you're familiar with that lot, there's quite a bit of topography adjustment that'll have to be done. And so when we look at the CDBG, the way that grant flows, it has to flow through a municipality. As a nonprofit, I cannot pull CDBG by myself. So it gets awarded to the municipality, and then the municipality uses a group like the PDC to administer it, because there are a lot of hurdles within the particular grant. That's what the PDC specializes in. And so basically the way that it works is the town, we worked with the town and the PDC, and the town applied for this grant. It was 1.98 something and some change $1 million. It's on the budget. I don't know the exact dollar amount. It's like 1.9 something.
1.928.
$1.928 million. And so once we were awarded that grant, the way that it'll flow is it'll go DHCD, which is the state development agency. They'll administer the funds through the town. The town then uses the PDC to essentially implement the work, do the reporting, meet the guidelines, follow the rules. And then once the work is done, we take over the land back. Like, we will give the town site control. All the pre-development will be done using this grant. And then we get the land back and we do the vertical structure. And so on the town side of things, it'll be money in, money out. It's just like being a vessel for the grant. So the administrative costs and things of that nature flow through PDC. They use their staff, their resources to do like the reporting and the tracking and all that stuff. So.
So Jordan, there was a question before you got here about the rent for the units and the types of units. Can you answer that?
Yeah. So the way this property is structured, it actually became a fairly complicated deal. We initially went in for what's called a 9% LIHTC. Had we gotten that 9% LIHTC, it'd be smooth sailing. We don't even know if we'd have needed the CDBG. But when you're competing in LIHTC, you're competing statewide. And we got beat out by Northern Virginia, Richmond projects because they're a lot higher density. They're building 90, 100 unit complexes. And so we got beat out being rural housing, how it often goes. And so we went back in and we're doing a combination. So we got funding from Tim Kaine's office through a congressional earmark. We're combining that with a 4% LIHTC, what's called a HOTC, which is a housing opportunity tax credit. And then we're kind of capping it all off with a bond financing that'll flow through Virginia Housing. And so all that to be said, that to meet those kind of standards, it's tiered towards, it's a mixed unit, right? So there's 40, 50, and 60% units. And so when you look at the complete structure of the property, 32 units, of those 32 units, we are setting aside, I think it's a minimum of, minimum of 10. Yeah, 10 units are set aside for intellectual and developmental disorders. So people who have some variation of mental health disability, but they are self-supportive, right? So like they can live on their own, but they do have a diagnosed mental health disorder.
Okay. I got a question.
Yeah.
Because when we had this discussion before, you were going to construct 32 units and they would meet the 3-unit minimum threshold for participation in the zone, the zone size. So, and those units were supposed to be set aside to critical populations such as domestic abuse survivors and the disabled.
Correct.
That is what, so I need to know exactly what all this entails. We've been asked several questions by several citizens, and I need to know a little bit more in detail of who will be housed there. Because looking back, this is what I thought that this was going to be, is what was presented to us on 1/22/24. And I don't know if that has changed, but I need some clarity. I need to know if it has changed, because we did, I believe, vote for this, for it to be in this format.
Yep.
And so I need to know if that has changed. And if so, then I guess we need to have another conversation. But I need to know if that has changed. I've been asked by several citizens what type of apartments they're going to be. I was under the impression they were for people who did not have housing, that are here working but cannot find anywhere to live. That was under the impression when this was presented, and then when I met with you prior to it being presented, that was my understanding. So I guess I need a little bit more understanding of who's actually going to be housed there.
Yeah.
Because if that's changed, then I think council needs to revisit this further if it has changed from what you initially said it was.
Yeah. So the projected population is still the same. There has been rumors going around that it's homeless housing, and it is indeed not. There is no requirement, bonus, benefit. There is nothing tied to this housing at all whatsoever, point blank period, of you being homeless. That is a complete lie and rumor. I don't know who started it, but it has been spread by certain people. That is absolutely 100% not true. The population being served, there is a set aside for intellectual disabilities and domestic violence. The remainder is being taken out to general public. That is with under that, there's an income threshold. It's targeted towards like your retail workers. You can be on fixed income like disability, Social Security, Section 8 vouchers, things like that. So we have a specific set aside that is a intellectual disability and domestic violence. The remaining units will be advertised, and we accept all vouchers. So if someone has Section 8, they can rent it. If they don't have Section 8, they can still rent it. But there is zero tie to having any homeless stipulation to
Okay.
it.
And no one's being moved here from other areas to
Nope.
Wytheville. We are taking care of the housing situation in Wytheville.
Yep.
No one's being brought here. I just want to, I want to get it all cleared up.
Yeah, that portion also is a very large rumor. And I've met with several people about that. This isn't the platform for it, but I know who has been starting that. We do not bring people in, period. My grants, all the grants that I get, state and federal, have a 6-month stipulation. I get audited every single year. I'd be glad to provide all of you guys my audit. I get audited every year by Yount, Hyde & Barbour, a third-party auditor. I also get follow-up audits through the actual agencies. So I get HUD audits, I get DHCD audits, I get Virginia Housing audits. In any given year, I do at least 2 audits. And my main audit costs me, out of my pocket, $40,000. And so they look through everything, who I'm serving, how many I'm serving, who's donating, everything gets audited for us. With our grants, like one of my largest grants, it's called VHSP. With that grant, I cannot serve you if you have not lived here for 6 months. The only bus that we've done, if you're not from here, we have general funds. And generally we'll ask people, hey, where are you headed? Do you have family? Do you have support elsewhere? Because we can't help you. And I have paid for bus tickets to get people elsewhere. I've sent people all the way to Washington State because they had an aunt there they could live with. That is the only busing that we do, period. I can provide you guys every bank statement, every credit card statement, and you're welcome to look through every single dollar I spend. So everything we do is 100% transparent. And I've put it out there many times. If anybody in the community or anything has any question or consideration otherwise, they know where my office is. And I'm completely open to sitting down with them and showing them audits, whatever they want to see to confirm that.
So Jordan, if you're able to, at tonight's meeting, based on the rental, what you're thinking the rental for the units will be, did you say that 60% AMI might be the upper threshold of what you would be charging?
Oh, so 60% AMI is have the income for the individual.
Okay.
And so you get into a bit of a calculation on that. So it's based on unit size, right? So we're designing this building to try and serve the biggest population. So we've got 1s, 2s, and 3s.
Right.
Right. And so the way that you calculate that is if you've got a single individual, their allowable AMI is lower than, let's say, a mom with 2 kids. Right. So because it's based on your total household income. And so what HUD says as a general guideline is it's 1.5 people per bedroom. And so if you've got a 3-bedroom, you would base their income off of 4.5 people. So what you do is you take the 4 and the 5 and you average them together. And that's how you get your 4.5.
Okay. So it's going to go from the 80% AMI rental threshold to 60. Is that a change, or is it going to remain? Because it has the projected rents for the units will meet the 80% AMI rental threshold for the program. So is it going to be 80 or 60%? Which one?
So what you are referencing is the town's housing rehab zone program, which is open to any developer in town.
Okay.
And Open Door decided to apply to that to get a waiver of the building permit fees. And so that's the maximum that they can charge to be in the town's program. So
Okay.
they're probably going to be much less.
It will be lower than
And-
that number.
And so I guess this would be a great time to ask you, Jordan, because we did do that about a year ago. Do you see any issues with meeting the town's housing rehabilitation zone program? Because I know the waiver of the fees is going to be a big deal for you all with this project. so.
Yeah, no, as far as, so in that application, the 80% AMI, that establishes the rent ceilings, and that gets pulled through Virginia Housing. So like Virginia Housing says, hey, if you're at 80% AMI, theoretically, this is the rent you can afford. And so the program that you're talking about is we are agreeing to not charge any more than that number. When in fact, as a nonprofit, we're actually going to be charging a good bit less than that number, like for monthly rents to people.
Can you send that to us and we can pass that along to town council?
Yes, please.
Like my rent schedule? Yeah. Yeah, I'll pull that from our application.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yep, absolutely. So to give you an example, and I'm not saying this is what that number is, but we just finished a quadplex over on West Ridge. That new one out there, that's one I built. That rent, brand new, is $725. And so we're trying to build a true affordable housing in the town of Wytheville.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Or?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For
Thank you.
everything that you all do.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, so the next thing on the agenda is public work topics. If anybody is open, it looks like, so not sure exactly what that says, but if anybody has any public work issues or topics, this
We
is-
have some topics that we can talk about. One is fencing around the shelter. That's one thing that I've gotten a proposal from a department about. So it's like it's about a little over $8,000 to fence the shelter, but I've heard from council members on both sides of that issue as that you would like to not enclose it or you would like to enclose it. So if you all would like to engage in that discussion, be fine.
So I actually met with each person on site there individually, and some changes came about from when we first met. So I think the consensus was for it to still be enclosed. The two things that we were asked to change is that it still be open during the daytime hours, like so there'll be gates on both ends, and those gates could be open like whenever the town bathrooms are unlocked, they could be unlocked at the same time and then locked back at night. And then the other suggestion was to put the fence on top of the stone wall. There's already a 4-foot wood fence, maybe make that a 8-foot fence, and it would be on top of the stone wall instead of down at the bottom. So those were the two things that were brought up. We should probably talk about it more, but I do feel like council was interested in having a fence. We just wanted to do it a certain way, and we really haven't had much time to talk about it since then. So maybe we could have more conversation about that in the future.
I would like to.
Yeah. talk about some-
I know that when we went over and we looked at it, I just know that when people go to the park, they may have lunch there.
Sure.
And after I gave it some thought, there was a family that came to actually celebrate Mother's Day there. And that kind of put me on the fence about it all. I don't want to take away any kind of access to our citizens. And also, people need to follow the laws and the rules and guidelines that we have set forth at the park. If it's open at dusk and it closes at dawn, I think it's dusk to dawn or dawn to dusk, dusk to dawn. But they need to adhere to those rules, because if they are not, they are, I think, in fact, trespassing once they are there after the park closes. And Mr. Castle, you might have to help me out with that just to make sure that I'm correct. And if people are trespassing after those hours, it opens our park up for vandalism and those sorts of things. So I would like to make sure that we are enforcing those rules. If no one is supposed to be there after those hours, our police department needs to make their patrols. And if they are, in fact, then they are trespassing, then we need to deal with those issues as well, because we want to maintain our safety and security of our parks. But after the family came to celebrate their mother, who was 98 years old, for Mother's Day, they had pizza, and they went around to the shelter they wanted to celebrate as a family. They didn't want to do anything extravagant. They just wanted to have pizza. So I thought about that too. So if we want to have a little bit more further discussion, I just want people to be able to access it during the times that it is open and available.
Which is what we talked about.
Right,
Which
right.
is what I'm saying, yeah, as long as it's unlocked during the daytime hours. The problem with that section is during the night,
Right.
not during the day so much. But yes, I agree it needs to be open during the day. So maybe we can just talk about that more, Mr. Moore, in the future, if that's okay.
Yeah, that will be fine.
Sure, thank you very much.
Mayor, I have to excuse
All right,
myself. I'll
thank
be
you,
back.
sir.
And we had asked the Public Works Department to look into some small things like getting some of the signpost painted, and I know they've started on that, so thank them, please, for doing that. I know they've done quite a few things already on the list, so we appreciate that very much.
We also had the issue of the crosswalk at Tazewell and Monroe. I think I sent you an update on that. We did get a quote for that at $156,000 if you put in the true crosswalk signalization where you press a button and it stops traffic and then you get a go. Given our budget situation, we think maybe you could do something a little less elaborate. Maybe just a button that you press and two of the flashing pedestrian crosswalk signs would light up and let people cross in to stop traffic at that point. We could even place one of those median signs that says stop for pedestrians in the crosswalk. Although at that corner with all the trailers we have in this town, it's going to be replaced about 3 times a month, I expect. But that is something we could take a look at if y'all would think that would be okay. That's about $5,000 per pole. It's a solar operated pole, and they would be connected. So you press one, both signs would light up on either side of the street.
That too, I would like to have some more conversation about when Mrs. Never mind, when all of council is here, so
Sure.
we can talk
And
about that.
that was, yes, Ms. Atkins
But I
was a
think
proponent for that,
Yeah, I
yes,
think that's a good idea.
certainly.
Thank you very much.
Steve, do you know any time frame for the, on Main Street where we have the Heritage Walk? I mean, I thought at some point that we were going to put something like that in there as well. You know where I'm talking about, the
Right,
Heritage
the
Walk across
crosswalk.
there? And all we got is that little flappy thing in there,
Right.
and, you know, I think several people have almost gotten hit many times.
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
not-
if we can just check into, if we don't have it on an agenda with Public Works or with whoever, that we maybe need to put it on after we
Sure.
can.
I mean, we could do a
finish this other
similar
one.
thing there that would be relatively, probably $10,000 or $15,000 and maybe help. I'm not sure that will, and it doesn't stop anybody
No,
like a red light. And there used to be one there, and it was taken down because it felt like it just blocked up traffic as they were trying to move through 4th and Main. That was years ago. That was taken down before the renovations downtown. We can look at that also at the same time.
well, I mean, we have one that's got, probably a little bit
And we have
ahead
2
of
of those
time.
right now, but they're
Uh-huh.
not, they're not coordinated with a button.
Right.
And that's all I had,
That's all I
I
have on
think.
that. Thank
Can I go back to the fence thing with the
Yes.
pool for just a
Sure.
minute? I agree with both of y'all on what you said there. I just want to emphasize, not only will it keep the people out at nighttime, but I think the opening it in the daytime to obviously people coming into the park, but also from the pool area, which was very, you guys talked about that a lot. So it's going to open up flow for the parents, the grandparents, the people who are swimming, to go into some shade, to go in there and have lunch and stuff like that. And I think that's a good positive thing, that doing that, we're not doing it just to have a fence up, but there's some good positive things that come out of that.
So it will be, are you all thinking about opening it up when people want to rent it? I know people rent it for family gatherings and reunions and things like that, baby showers in the summertime. So will you be opening it up for those people to still be able to rent it privately without any pool traffic?
Well, I met
Whatever they do.
Josh down there as well, and I think, well, you were there. Josh happened to be there when we stopped by, and I think he said that it would still be able to rent it out for private events, and it would be shut down for those events, so, which is the same way it is now. I think it would just be the same.
Okay. And also, there's a trash can down there that when we met, it was there on Mother's Day, and it is still there. It needs to be emptied, please.
Oh, yeah,
Please,
sure.
please. And I'm sure just people are busy, so.
And speaking back on the pool, when we met Josh, he had talked about, they have, all of the pool has been painted on the outside, all of it. The picnic shelter that we were talking about did not get painted. I think he said he had the funds, and he was asking, and he just thought it might be nice to get that painted. It's got some stains on it pretty bad, so it might be not a bad time to ask. I
Yeah.
don't know if he said anything to you about that.
He has not, but
Okay.
we can
It was
certainly look
just
into
in
that.
A casual conversation, but I thought maybe it might be a good time to ask about that.
Sure.
And can you check with him to see if those cameras work?
Sure.
They should.
That's probably more a Ron question than a, so the cameras at the shelter work?
At McLean
Shelter.
Yeah, last, there's a few that's out, the pool that's out.
Okay.
Last I checked, I think the ones underneath the shelter.
Would you check on that too, please?
And I'd like to see a policy that we inspect these on a regular basis to make sure they're just not out. They should never be out. They should all be working. So maybe put that on on a inspection schedule every month or
Yes.
every couple months you check them. Would that be possible?
No, we're working on new systems in, totally different.
What kind of a time frame are you looking at that or to get that done?
We've got cameras for this building already ordered, we just haven't had time to put them in. We're doing the wire and everything, so major,
So that's not being outsourced by somebody else? We're doing that ourselves?
that's
That
what we're
pres-
looking at.
that pres-
Well, probably, I would really like to have a conversation about the cameras, guys, just because I think it is so important. If we are not able to get these installed in a timely manner, we need to contract this out. But all of the cameras on every site in the town need to be operational at all times, please. Whatever you need to do. Is that okay, council? I mean, does that sound reasonable?
Yes,
Because they're no good if they don't work.
right.
And some of these have been here for some time and they're just not being installed. So outside contractor might be time to just get somebody to come in and just take care of all that. Any thoughts, Ms. Holton, on that?
I think that town management can meet with computer operations, and we can come back with you with a response. Does that sound good?
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right, anything else on the Public Works? Kind of going to slip into what's next on the agenda, which is council member time, and we have plenty of time to do that, so we might not have anything left, but Vice Mayor, you want to start?
I do. I actually received an email while we were sitting here in regards to 6th Street between North Spiller and Pine. Apparently there is an issue with speeding there, and I would like to see someone posted there, not just the car that we have on Monroe Street, but can we please post an officer there? This has been a request, I think, from, I don't know who they actually asked. I think they asked someone at the police department and they were not able to get it done. I'm just reading the email that I was sent. But they would like something done about the speeding there. They have some concerns that it has become very dangerous. And rather than to have someone just ride through, they would like for someone to be posted there so that they can cut down on the speeding.
There is increased traffic right there because folks are trying to avoid 4th Street and they'll go up 6th Street. I do that all the time.
I've noticed
So there
that.
is quite a bit of traffic on that little 6th Street
Yeah.
area because of the. trying
Is
to
that
get
your
through
vehicle
4th.
they took a picture of?
I hope not. I hope not.
Just asking.
But I do go
Yeah.
up 6th Street often to not go up 4th, so especially if you're
Yeah.
going on that side of town, so.
Right, and they moved here to get away from crowds and all of the excessive speeding, and she's asking for speed bumps to be placed and speed signs on her street. But I think that if we place patrol right now, let's see how it goes with placing some patrol vehicles out there to kind of slow people down and everything. We'll see how that goes, see if it can correct the problem, and then if it doesn't correct the problem, then we can council can meet in one of our work sessions and discuss it further. But I would like to answer their request.
Sure.
Thank
What-
you so much.
One thing people need to keep in mind when they're requesting something like speed bumps, that it's going to keep them awake at night if it's right by their house. So that's something that
Right.
needs to be, I don't know.
Well, maybe we can fix it with this, so.
Yeah. Is that the only email you got in this evening? Do you have anything else on
No,
Councilman
ma'am, I
Tom?
do not at this
I
time.
don't have anything. Kathy?
I'd just like to say I attended the activities for the Run for the Wall. I'll tell you what, it just puts a smile on your face. Wonderful, wonderful entry when the bikers came into town. And I also attended the memorial service that night at 7 p.m. We didn't have a big turnout, but that was okay. It was meaningful. And then I attended the next morning when the riders left, and the program the Speedwell School gave was outstanding. Those students did an excellent job, and I just want to thank the people that are responsible for putting that activity on, did a wonderful job this year.
I agree.
That's all I have, Vice Mayor.
Mr. Hand?
I only have one thing, and it's a parking thing again. This is right in front of Spiller School, where they have the signs you cannot park in front of Spiller School now at all, except to pick up your kids between 2:30 and 3. The problem with that is you have the businesses right across where that is, and they've been there for years and years and years, and school's out, and you still can't park there. So even when school's out, they can't have people to park there, and they have a lot of people who come who have mobility issues, and they have to park down the street and around the corner. It's really inconvenient. So I didn't know if there was some conversation to have with the school board about, I don't know if that's who asked for those signs to be put there, but it is odd that you can't park when school is out, and you can't park all day, even though it's only between 2:30 and 3, but you can't park there all day. I wondered if we could have a conversation about that and maybe look into to something that might make a little more sense for those folks who are right there, and they have been there 25 years long before they put up these signs. I think these signs were not maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and I understand why they're there, but I was wondering, and these folks asked me to ask if there could be some conversation about that in the future, if we could do that. I would appreciate it.
Sure.
Did we cover those signs when school is not
I was
in
thinking the
session
same
during-
thing. Just have something to go over them.
Yep.
Yes.
Right.
Sleeve.
Yes, something to
Right.
sleeve. But especially when school's out all summer, and it's just odd that you can't park there when school's not even in session. So maybe that would be a really easy fix
Yeah,
and
just
make sense.
Cover
I think
them.
during the summer, that would be a great solution. I mean, other than that, though, you may sign it for the times, but I'm afraid what would happen, people would park there thinking they'll be out by 2:30, and then you've got a traffic
And it may
jam.
just be while school's out, so that
Sure.
way you wouldn't have that issue. They couldn't
Sure.
park there. It's just something to consider.
Yeah, I think it makes good sense.
I think
If y'all think it does,
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And the other quick thing I thought I was done, I didn't see in the budget where we were going to have the water tower pressure washed. Remember, it's got all that green algae on it. Did we?
we did not put that in the budget, but we,
I just asking because I didn't see it in there.
It may be part of the contract. So I think in your budget, you do have a CIP item for a water tank painting contract.
Yes, ma'am.
And what that is they are going to put all of our tanks on a schedule. And I believe the balloon tank is on that schedule to get
Thank you.
repainted.
Thank you very much.
but as I recall, the first one is the Pine Ridge
Pine Ridge,
tank, so
so
it's
it may
a
be
year or
2
two
years.
away.
It's just looking
Yeah.
not very nice. It's got all that
Right.
green algae just on the north side. It's
Side.
not the entire tower, and it's not all the way up top. It's really on the base, maybe up 20 feet.
Okay,
Just a
now
thought.
that maybe we could reach with our own forces, and it
Our
may not
guys
be an
might could do
issue.
that. Just thought I'd ask. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Anything else to come before council during this work session? Hearing none, we will adjourn